like to wait on Senator Roberts because he has a bill to present as well. I'd like to have him hear both presentations as well, and he's also on the committee. And I'd rather not go into a subcommittee unless we just are forced to do it. But give them another little bit. I think they recognize my my promptness to start at 12, but I'm sure they had some other things going on too. It's been a busy week for most of us, so I'm going to give them a little bit of grace if y'all are okay with it. They're okay with everybody? Okay, good deal. Time by the wall clock and about 12:06 by my clock. 12:07 now. We've waited long enough. We're going to go into executive session, but first, let's call the roll and see if we've got a quorum. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Senators Moon,
Aye, here.
Schnelting,
Here.
Bratton,
Here.
Nicola.
Here.
Quorum is established.
Good. Since we do have a quorum, let's go into executive session. I move that we go into executive session. Do I have a second? Have a second. We're now in executive session. I move that joint Senate Resolution 46 be voted do pass. Is there a second?
Second.
And since the sponsor's not here, I'll just talk briefly about 46. There's really just a small change, but it's a significant change, providing property tax exemption for disabled veterans. So the Constitution now requires that you be both a prisoner of war and a disabled veteran. And so this will allow or, so you can be one or the other. Any discussion on that particular change? This is a constitutional provision, so it'll have to go before the voters. So no discussion. I move that Senate Joint Resolution 46 be voted do pass. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll. Do I have a second? Good. We have a second. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Yes. Senators Moon,
Aye.
Schnelting,
Aye.
Bratton,
Aye.
Nicola.
Aye.
By a vote of 4-0, we have voted Senate Joint Resolution do pass. Now we're going to go to move that Senate Bill 204 be voted do pass. Is there a second? I have a second. Was that Senator Bratton?
Yeah.
Okay, Senator Bratton seconded. We have a committee substitute for this bill, and I want to go over that substitute, but the bill sponsor is here. Senator Roberts, we've just brought up Senate Bill 204 for a vote in executive committee, executive session. Would you like to go over the changes? I have that in my notes as well if you want some help with that too. But
Yeah,
please.
Yeah, so I know there were some changes to make sure that it mirrored what we'd agreed to as far as the perfected version
Yeah.
that made it out, and then we're including protections to ensure that personally identifiable information is not observable.
Yeah, I think that's one of the major changes. In addition, if I read it correctly, we have going down from monthly meetings to quarterly, so that should save a little bit. They are eligible for compensation, but I don't think there's a line item for it at this point, so that's
Right.
kind of a moot point. In addition, the size of the council was reduced. Do you recall exactly who has been eliminated from that? I know I've got it someplace, but I didn't make that note.
Oh, I thought we added someone.
The surveyors, yes, yeah.
That's,
Was there a change, Scott? Do you remember, was there any reduction in that you recall, or was it just the addition of the surveyor group?
From the bill is filed to this committee sub, the Department of Ag was removed, DESI was removed, and a couple of other members, and it was primarily based on conversation with those groups, so they,
Okay,
I don't say, they didn't see this priority, so
right,
there had been conversation about trying to get the number down, so we
yes,
tried to squeeze that,
yes,
to get the best folks there. There's still seats available that are the same for kind of at large.
Yes.
And that's the same for the filed version, last year's perfected and.
Right.
good. Thank you very much. And then a description of the council was changed as well. That's kind of a minor tweak there. With that, is there any discussion on the changes in the committee sub from the original? Okay, very good. Then I move that roll that in first. Let me get that here.
You got to make a motion to adopt the Senate committee substitute.
Yeah, right. I move that we adopt the committee substitute for Senate Bill 2004. Do I have a second? We have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And now I move that we, this is a do pass now, right? Yeah, good. I move that we do pass the committee substitute.
It's been adopted. It's
Yeah.
committee substitute.
The committee substitute has been adopted. I move that Senate Bill 2004 as amended by the Senate committee substitute be voted do pass. Is there a second?
Second.
And I have Senator Nicola as the second. Any discussion on the do pass motion? Seeing none, Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Senators Moon,
Aye.
Schnelting, Bratton, Nicola, Roberts.
Aye.
By a vote of 5-0, the bill is amended. It's voted do pass. Move that we go out of executive session. Do we have a second? All those in favor say aye. And we're out of executive session. And now we are going to move into our public hearing for Senate Bill 300. And that would be presented by Senator Roberts. Senator Roberts, if you will, when you're ready, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee for affording me the opportunity to present SB 300 today. The primary intent of the bill is to protect veterans from potential exploitation by ensuring that those who offer advice or assistance regarding the benefits adhere to legal and ethical standards. By enforcing written agreements and clear disclosures, the bill seeks to promote transparency and safeguard veterans from misleading practices. First, this bill aims to regulate the compensation practices of individuals and entities that provide assistance or advice or assistance to veterans regarding their benefits. It stipulates that no person shall receive compensation for advertising or assisting any individual with regards to veterans' benefit matters unless permitted under federal law. It also prohibits receiving compensation for referring individuals or others for advice or the assistance on veterans' benefits matters. Additionally, the bill mandates that any advertisements for such services must include clear disclosures as specified in the Act. And finally, it restricts compensation for services rendered before the date on which a notice of disagreement is filed within the United States Department of Veterans Affairs. Senate Bill 300 represents a significant step towards ensuring that veterans receive trustworthy and transparent assistance concerning their beliefs. By implementing these provisions, Missouri aims to uphold the integrity of support services available to our veterans, honoring their service and commitment to our nation. Thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the bill sponsor? I've got a few. With regard to compensation, what I'm understanding is that currently, under the current agreement, VSOs working under the Veterans Commission are not compensated. Is that true, untrue?
I believe that is correct.
Okay. On that note, are some of these actually employed in situations where they might be receiving a compensation that might not be directly related to the work they're doing as a VSO?
So it's as far as which group as far as receiving the compensation?
Well, for example, in my community, we
Yeah.
have a veterans home, and there is a VSO office there, and they're paid by some entity, and I'm going to have to verify exactly which entity that is, but they are receiving some compensation, and so while they may not be receiving compensation from a veteran who's seeking benefits, they're still compensated
Oh,
in
I
some
follow
way.
you.
So,
Yes.
so I'm wondering if that's taken into account, and how many, if you know, how many VSOs might be working under that umbrella of practice as opposed to some outside that who are compensated directly by the veteran as they are compensated by benefits?
I'm not sure, but I'll get that answer to you.
Good, thank you. In your testimony, if I heard correctly, you used the term taken advantage of, and maybe I'm putting words in your mouth, but where there seems to be a sense that these veteran service officers working outside the scope currently approved is they may be taking advantage of some in certain ways, and I may not be voicing that exactly as clearly as I want to, but if you get the gist, do you know of any situations where they have been defrauded or they've been led to believe that something was going to happen and it didn't, or it happened another way, and maybe they're paying more money than they perhaps were intending to pay the VSO?
Yeah, I've got some folks who are testifying would be more familiar with kind of those anecdotal stories.
Good.
I would say that, I think there are some of these organizations that are doing a fair job, and as far as representing and providing a service that some of our veterans can't or have been struggling to receive. But I believe that there are folks in different organizations operating in this state that are taking advantage of some of our veterans.
Okay. A couple questions as follow-ups. Transparency. In your experience and knowledge at this time, are both sides, some are using the term claim shark, and then the VSOs versus the claim shark. I'll just use that as an example that we all probably understand. Are there transparency issues where the veterans may not be having full disclosure by the VSOs on both sides, where they may be, again, led to believe that they're going to be receiving some benefit or providing some compensation out of pocket, and it's not clearly stated up front?
Yeah, I think there have been situations in the state where that has happened,
Okay.
where there's been a lack of transparency.
Okay.
And I'm not saying, all groups operating in the state do that, but it is my understanding that that has happened, and it's one of the concerns we're trying to address.
Okay, very good. Last question I have at this time is, how many, in your estimation, are waiting, veterans who should be receiving benefits are actually waiting in line to receive those? And then as a correlation, how many VSOs are there as a ratio to veterans?
I'm not sure, but I can find out that
Okay.
information. It was
Great.
how many are waiting in line and how many are VSOs are operating in the state.
Yes. And I guess that last question would be with the ratio, how many VSOs are there for veterans who might be eligible for benefits? That might be a better way to ask that question.
How many are waiting who are eligible? Gotcha.
Yeah, okay. Any other questions for the bill sponsor? Seeing none, are there witnesses in favor of Senate Bill 300? If you'd like to, please come forward. And we're not really pressed for time, but I think it's probably a good practice. We've got two microphones. You could have one in favor to Senator Roberts' left and one to his right, and come on up, and that way we don't have lag time while you're coming up to the table. So come on up, and there are witness forms on each side, so please, if you haven't filled one out already, fill one out and leave it before the committee hearing is over today. So who's first and second? Come up and join Senator Roberts.
Okay. Yeah.
They're getting started. How many are in favor of Senate Bill 300? Got three. How many opposed? Okay, about equal there, so we should be okay on time. So whoever's first, if you flip that coin, go ahead and get started.
I'll go ahead. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Gary Grigsby. I'm from Warrensburg. I am a member of Post 131 in Warrensburg. I'm past commander of the Department of Missouri American Legion, and I currently am serving as the vice chair of MAVO. Troy Williams, our chair, is in Washington, D.C. advocating for veterans, so he could not be here, and I think maybe this hearing was moved up a little bit, and he wasn't planning to be out of town for the hearing. Let me make a point clear first. MAVO doesn't support negotiating or compromising with illegal support of our veterans for a fee. We have VSOs are certified by VA to help the veterans. The VA has VSOs, the American Legion, VFW, AMVETS, other, and I'm going to use another term that has the same initials, VSO, Veteran Service Organizations. So sometimes there's a confusion when they use the VSO acronym for Veteran Service Organization when they mean Veteran Service Officer, which is the person helping the veteran. The compensation, the American Legion has VSOs. The VFW has VSOs, and we pay for those VSOs. The VA pays for their Veterans Service Officers also. So there was some question and confusion about that. To be a VSO, you are VA certified. The people who are not certified are acting illegally. We have attorneys who can become VA certified, and the difference between our veteran service officers and the attorney who is a VSO, has VSO certification, is that while the VSOs that are in the association with military organizations do not charge the veteran the fee for filing the paperwork. They do that. Their pay comes from their own organization. The attorneys can charge a fee, and it's based upon some formula. I don't know that. But the ones that are outside who are illegally doing so are the ones that we want to stop. I will be testifying on Senate Bill 316, and will be taking the other position. I think one more point. 38 CFR 14.636 designates the authority to certify persons as defined in this bill, persons as defined in the bill, as veteran service officers. And that's the only way that they should be handling veterans and handling the filing of bills. The people who are doing it illegally and charging fees are taking advantage of our veterans. Thank you.
Thank you.
I take any questions if you
Mr.
have.
Grizzly, thank you for your testimony. Are there any questions for the witness? I do have a question. You mentioned illegal
Yes.
VSOs. Is there a statute that you could point me to that would help me understand that?
I believe that there is not a state statute in place, but I think the 38 CFR 14.636, that's 38 CFR 14.636, is the designated authority for VA to do these things.
Gotcha.
And
Good.
I think you'll find it there.
Good. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Seeing no other questions, thank you for your testimony. The next can come up on his place. And, sir, if you're ready to testify, you may
I don't have
proceed.
much to add. Charles Gooden, I'm the legislative chairman for MAVO and the American Legion Department of Missouri, and I'm a vice chairman of the National American Legion Legislative Commission. And the problem is not with this bill as much as it is with the other one. To understand it, to file a claim for benefits, you have to be a certified veteran service officer. You have to complete the course to file it. Most of these claims that get in a problematic area are whoever does it fills it all out for the veteran, whatever they tell them, and give it to them and let them file themselves. I could file my own claim, that's legal. It's not legal for someone else to file that claim, as Gary stated, without being a certified service officer. And the charges that they're charging for that are just extreme. Most of us who have claimed for a disability for whatever cause, there is a certain time that it takes to file. Every service organization in Missouri, service officers that work for MVC are all trained and have research at their hands. And it is time consuming to do the research. The lawyers can't do all of that. They could certainly litigate in court and take and cause those. So by the time that gets through the process, just in my case, some years ago, a lot of years ago, it took about 18 months from start. I had some things when I got out of the service that were no compensation, 30%, 10%, no compensation. As years have gone on, other things show up. And from the day you file, the day you fill out your paper, your clock has started. So however long it takes, whatever the adjudication is on that, you're paid for that just like you had it for that 18 months. And it's considerable. And it's it's considerable amount of money. You're talking thousands, tens of thousands of dollars.
May I ask a question on
Sure.
that regard? So you're talking about not the VSOs that you're approving, but it's the others where their clock is running. Okay.
Yeah.
May I ask you another question? First, let me ask the committee. Do you have questions for him at this point? And if you have more, please feel free to continue as well. You mentioned the courses to be certified. Can you tell me what the components are of that course? What that?
No, I've
you might
never
need to go
taken
through?
it.
Can you tell me where I can find those components so that I can determine what the criteria is to be a certified VSO? Perhaps we can put that on Senator Roberts' shoulders and
Yeah.
he can
I'm
he can
sure
probably
it's
find it.
available.
Okay. And then charges for the benefits application. We were kind of going down that road a little bit. Do you know what those charges might be?
50% of what your back pay is. Is
50%.
what the customary charge from these claim sharks are getting, plus 50% of their first year too.
50% of the first
The back
year? Well,
pay.
Okay. Okay, very good.
So when you get a check, say you're going to get adjudicated for 80%, you're going to get a check for
Okay.
$22.50, about $30,000. They're going to take half of that.
Okay.
Then the same thing the next year.
Okay.
It's about a $30,000 claim, and they're going to get the half.
All right, very good. Since I interrupted, do you have any other comments you'd like to finish up with?
No, I think that it's, there's some numbers we have of what the service officers gain for the state of Missouri, and we're short. I think that we're about 3,000 short of service officers in this state.
Okay.
So-
All right. And with those comments, does that spark any other questions from the members? All right. Thank you, Mr. Gooden. If there's another in favor, take Mr. Gooden's spot. And sir, when you're ready, you can begin.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. My name is Don Hedges. I'm a member of Post 1003 out at St. Martin's, and I'm a Vietnam veteran, and I'm also the state quartermaster for the VFW for the state of Missouri. Troy Williams, as Mr. Grigsby said, he's not only the MAVO president, but he is our legislative, him and Mike Schroeder are our legislative chairman for the VFW, and they're both in Washington, D.C., so I've been asked to come up here. The VFW is concerned that bad actors are preying on our veterans by skimming their earned VA benefits. Claim sharks often charge veterans the equivalent of 5 to 10 months of their future disability payments. This is money that veterans may not have, which could put them in debt simply for trying to access their earned benefits. This is unethical and illegal. Anyone who assists veterans with preparation, presentation, or prosecution of VA claims should adhere to established fee caps or be subject to penalties. Therefore, we would support common sense legislation to require that everyone who charges veterans for claims assistance does so under VA accreditation and follows legal precedents as would accredited agents and attorneys. Because of the inaction in Washington, D.C., 9 states have passed anti-claim shark laws that prohibit charging veterans for initial claims and claims assistance. Those are Washington, Iowa, Michigan, New York, Illinois, Nevada, New Jersey, Maine, and Massachusetts. The VFW urges the passage of legislation that will prohibit the exploration of veterans and survivors by unscrupulous claim sharks and strengthen the accreditation system. VFW will not compromise veterans' disabilities and compensation with criminals. The VFW has 26,000 members in the state of Missouri, and we strongly support SB 300. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony, sir. Any questions from the committee? I do have a couple. You mentioned predatory, where they're preying on the veterans. And can you describe some of those instances where you might have witnessed those or become aware of some of those predatory acts?
There again, if Troy was here, he could attest to this a lot, but just from hearing him talk about veterans that call him asking for help once they've signed on with a lawyer, someone that's not accredited with the VA, and they find out what it's costing them, then they're calling the VFW VSOs trying to get them to help them and get them out of these situations, which we can't in a lot of cases.
And with regard to the VSOs currently, and I'm going to use the term claim sharks again too, because I'm not aware of another term, and maybe I'll come up with one later.
Yeah.
But are there disclosures required from both groups, even just the VSOs now? Does the VSO have to require or present a disclosure to the veteran showing what kind of work they're going to do, and maybe even give a timeline and what benefits the veteran might receive in that time period?
I am not a VSO, but I am sure that they disclose things to them. I know they have to get a power of attorney from the veteran to be able to access their records and help them. But as far as what else disclosed, I do not know.
Good. One last call for questions from the committee. Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Looks like we have one more in favor on this side. If there's another in favor, please take Mr. Hinge's place. Arnie, when you're ready.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much, members. My name is Arnie C. AC Dinoff, State Public Advocate. And I'd like both of the bills, SB 300, and I'll also be testifying for SB 316. 316 offers some more protections that I'd like to speak about in the next public hearing. But veteran programs, scams, for profit, taking advantage, needs to be dealt with by the legislature. There are so many not-for-profit organizations and advisors out there that want you to either join their organization for little money, and there's a lot of advice out there that's for free. I've helped a few veterans in my community through the process, and it's a long and tedious process. You have to get a lot of people involved at the congressional and federal level. The Veterans Administration, in my opinion, is really messed up, and it needs to be revamped in a really bad way. It took me 5 and 6 years to get people the benefits that they deserved, from serving in Vietnam and being exposed to Agent Orange and having chemicals dropped on them at certain posts that they were mandated to be without certain protections. There should be no finder's fee, no commission, no bonuses. I like the idea of the written agreement, that there's assurances, consumer protections, and somebody can be held accountable. We need to stop these predators from taking advantage of our resident veterans. When I hear things of the 50%, that's their claim of what the veterans is paying to the veteran, or paying in terms of benefits to the veteran, is just highway robbery, and it makes me cry. That money is to go to take care of their disability, to take care of the endurance and what they went through and experienced, and part of their life was taken away. And for that, I believe that they should be compensated. Now, when it comes to the penalty, I'm for a tiered system on the penalty, because right now it sits as a misdemeanor A. That's a high misdemeanor, but in a way it's a slap in the face and the cost of doing business. If somebody gets charged, and all they do is would have to pay the fine. So I would like to see a more fierce, more tiered penalty process, that it be a misdemeanor A for the first offense, then a felony D for the second offense, felony C for the third offense. I believe that that'll send a clear message, and I believe that we can get rid of the bad actors that are taking advantage of our Missouri veterans. For those reasons, I support SB300. I like 316 a lot better, but I'm supporting this bill. And I put my online testimony this morning.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your testimony. Any questions for the witness? I just have one brief one, maybe a yes or no.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned about no payments, commissions, and the previous testimony stated that there's considerable time invested in researching and determining what compensation and benefits might be provided by the or to the veteran. Are you aware of how much time might be involved that it would require to determine what that benefit might be?
When I first started helping veterans, it's like going to the library and doing research. It takes a lot of time and effort, and you have to talk to a lot of different people before you get on the right path. You have to go to the right agencies and the right people who know, who've been down that path before, who could help you through it, who are experienced. Could you repeat your question about the fee?
Just how much time's involved in collecting the data, talking to the numerous people that you talked about, asking lots of questions? How much time is involved in to get to that final answer, which may not be the final answer, to determine what the benefit might be?
I'm a pretty good researcher, and I dig for information. I have to be honest, it took me 1.5 years to get a concept and a grasp of how the system works and operates. And it depends on the parties and the characters involved along the way and the people who are hearing the hearings. It was different through the 4 different times that I've been involved with it.
Good. Thank you for your
So,
testimony.
thank you.
Are there other witnesses in favor of Senate Bill 300? Any opposed to 300? Come on up. If there's more than one, you can take both sides, and we can kill 2 birds with 1 stone a little quicker, probably. So when you're seated and ready, go ahead. You can't stop. Wait, okay. And just before you get started, we're going back into session at 1:15. That clock isn't right. We've got 35 minutes. That should be adequate time to get through both and have, I think, parity with both there. So when you're ready, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm John Blomstrom. I am with Veterans Guardian. I am in the D.C. office. We are one of the private for-profit VA claims consultants. I'm a Marine Corps veteran and served in both Iraq and Afghanistan. I think, tantamount here, and I think that everybody that's sitting in this room, and before I really begin, want to thank everybody that's put the uniform on for their service. We are not diametrically opposed to the VFW or even some of the tenets of Senator Roberts' bill. I think at the end of the day, everybody here is looking to preserve and protect veterans, and what we're looking for with Senate Bill 316, which we'll get to in a minute, is basically ensuring that there are consumer protections out there, but that veterans have a right to choose. You asked a question earlier about the VSO to veteran ratio in the state. There are 399,154 veterans in the state of Missouri and 119 VSOs. Now, as a Marine, I'm not great at math, but that's one, and basically one VSO for every 2,700 veterans. And again, the VSOs do an incredible job, and there's definitely a need for them out there. I want to clarify a couple of things. 38 CFR 5901 says that you cannot, as an agent or attorney, present or prosecute or prepare in front of the VA and charge a fee. We do none of those things. What we do is essentially it's tantamount to income tax preparation, where what we'll do is we'll put together a package for a veteran, help them put together a fully developed claim. But at the end of the day, it's on the veteran to go and actually present in front of the VA, send their package in, schedule their C&P exams. What we're looking to do is ensure that this industry, A, continues to exist so that veterans have a right to address their grievances under the First Amendment protections that our Constitution offers them, but also ensure that there are guardrails. Like any other private industry, there are going to be bad actors, and we fully admit that. That's why we're proactively working in the halls of Congress as well as at the state level to sit down with folks like you and put guardrails in place so that people that do what we do and give veterans that option also have a set of guardrails and consumer protections in place. There are predatory practices and aggressive marketing tactics that will reach out directly to a veteran. We do none of those things. Our fee is contingency based, meaning we only charge a veteran for service if we're successful in helping them be successful. If we are not, we don't charge. We don't touch back pay. And something that was alluded to earlier, if your claim is denied, you have a right to appeal under the Board of Veterans Appeals. The kicker with that is at the end of that period, which right now the current docket at BVA is 355,000 cases that are taking between 2 and 9 years. At the end of that, and upon successful adjudication, and the attorneys that are helping present in front of the Board of Veterans Appeals are getting 33.33% that back pay. Now again, Marine mathematics is what it is. Let's just take a parable that if your back pay is $60,000, an attorney is getting 33.33% of that. Using that same logic, so let's say that your appeal took 5 years, so it's $1,000 a month. We charge you a one-time contingent fee of $5,000, and that's it for the rest of your life. We don't work with creditors, debt collectors. We don't have access to VBMS. The veteran never signs a power of attorney. Again, we don't act as their agent of record. So again, everything we do is basically in helping a veteran prepare. And at the end of the day, again, that is protected under the First Amendment rights of the Constitution. So what we're looking to do, and again, I think Senator Roberts and Senator Black, I think where the two roads combine is that they're looking to protect veterans. And I'll address accreditation briefly. Accreditation is a process by which basically you go through TRIPS training, which is the training to become accredited as a VSO. But at the end of the day, accreditation is a couple of hours of training and some CLE. And what we're doing proactively at the federal level is actually working with Congress on bipartisan legislation that will open a pathway to accreditation for organizations like ours. So we're not actually looking to skirt the system. We are proactively looking to get federal legislation passed that allows us to become accredited. What is great, I think, about both bills, but focusing briefly, and I know we'll address Senator Black's, 316, what it does is put in a very robust consumer protection piece that ensures that any of those bad practices are legislated out. No call centers, HIPAA compliant servers, again, contingency fee. The other thing that we do is we will not work with a veteran in their presumptive period. So if a veteran is separated from active service, we actually let them, we'll tell them that there are VSOs that can help them. They don't need us. Because under that presumptive period, that 365 days from separation of active service, whatever is ailing you is assumed by the VA that it is service connected, so you don't need a service like ours. The other thing we will do up front is let a veteran know that there are free services available, and we'll actually help vector them to those free services.
For our records, could you spell your last name for us?
It's long in Swedish. Yes, Blomstrom. BLOMSTROM.
Just like it sounds.
Yes, sir.
If I'd have been listening, Clara Kelly, I would have gotten that.
Well, I've got a little bit of a head cold, so I do
Yeah.
apologize.
No, you did well. I have one question with the course components. You mentioned 2 hours training.
A few hours training. I'm not a
Okay,
VSO.
all right.
Our
Okay.
our team, again, because we're not accredited,
Okay.
and again, not acting as agents or attorneys, we don't have to go through accreditation. But we do have a very rigorous training program that our personnel go through.
Okay.
We're of the mantra, do one thing and do it well.
Okay, very good. Any questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you very much. It looks like you've probably presented your case for 316 already too, but we'll get back to that in just a little bit.
Anytime I can get up, as my wife will tell you, I'll take the chance. So
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
And any more in opposition as we're going along? Looks like there isn't any, so sir, if you will, go ahead and,
Chairman, my name is Sergeant First Class Retired Vance Ewing, and spent 22 years in the Army. And I think what I'd like to talk about is faith and hope in this part. This is just my personal testimony of what happened to me, and the reason that I needed assistance other than the VSO from the military. When I first got out, I was 20% rated as a disability rating of 20% with a whole bunch of zeros in other parts of my body. Not understanding the system, not being educated through the military and my retirement separation issues, I thought I was done, right? And there was no hope for me to get anything else. Went through the VSO at Fort Leonard Wood, took them about a year and a half, went back throughout the process, and they lost my paperwork. So we started again. Took about a year or so going through having absolute discussions with them, meetings with them, coming back through the system. Once again, my paperwork was lost, and we started again. At that point, I just gave up because there was no point in going forward. It just seemed like every attempt to look at my records, which are about yay big, and my medical records, failed through the free system of the VSOs in the military. A friend of mine said, hey, you need to go to this agency and they're going to help you out, right? So I went there, we talked with them. They helped me get all kinds of exams to get things looked at, researched through my records, putting injury to records. I went from a 20% to 90%, which I'm satisfied with, right? I'm good with that. But the lack of hope, and I can tell you story after story of veterans from Fort Leonard Wood area, from St. Robert, that went through the same process of trying to get their claim through the system. And again, it does take time. It does. But when time after time after time, you beat your head up against the wall, you give up hope, right? And so some of the organizations out there, and I'm absolutely in favor of making sure that the bad actors are taken out. But there are some organizations out there, like the one that helped me, that absolutely did a fantastic job, treated me well all the way through, was honest brokers from the moment I walked in the door, and they assisted me. And I appreciate that. They took me from something that I had no hope with to actually having hope. So again, I'm all for making sure the bad actors are taken out, but the organizations that are out there that are doing the work of the 3,000 people that were missing in helping veterans, if there wasn't a choice, then I'd still be stuck.
yeah. Thank you for your testimony. I'm not trying to cut you short, but we want to give adequate time for the other
Yes,
bill
sir.
as well. And I'm going to give an opportunity for questions. Is there any from the committee? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. If you will, please complete a witness form if you haven't already. Leave that at the table for us. And sir, are there any others against the bill? Okay, go ahead and if you can make your remarks brief. And I'm sorry to cut you so short, but we've gone had a significant time for 300 when it gives ample time for 316 as well. So go ahead and
my-
begin.
My name is Merle Jones. I'm a retired Command Sergeant Major. I served 23 years in the Army. I am a lifetime member of the VFW. When I retired out, I used the VFW to help me with my rating. I got to a whopping 30% and was there for 18 years. I used the local VSO afterwards, and it was painful. I will tell you, I got very frustrated, and we started a company in a hot tub because of our annoyance and the frustration level we went through trying to get the VA rating I earned and deserved. And genuinely, I appreciate, that, we send somebody to school for a couple days. Like the other organization, we have a lot of our team used to work for the VA. We have experts that will listen and take the time. And at the end of the day, I agree, bad actors need to go away. We all want to take care of veterans. That's what this should be about. It shouldn't be about us against them. It should be about doing the right thing for our veterans. If you want to hire somebody, because I think what it comes down to, are you smart enough to read the contract? Do you understand what you are buying? And everyone, I have several letters signed by colonels, sergeant majors, and I can't tell you how many people have told me we have changed their life. So I would say I'm offended that people say organizations like ours aren't doing the right thing, because that is not true. And I will tell you, we are a Missouri organization. Just about every employee is either a veteran or a military spouse. And I'm going to tell you, they are the biggest advocates of our organizations because we believe in taking care of veterans. So I'm going to tell you, there are good actors in Missouri doing the right thing for the veterans.
Very good. Thank you for your testimony. Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you for presenting, and please complete a witness form before you finish. Are there any here for information only?
All right, Paul Kirchhoff, the Executive Director of the Missouri Veterans Commission, and I'm Senator Roberts' phone a friend. Number one, VSOs are state, our VSOs that work for the Missouri Veterans Commission are state employees. So they receive compensation in their salaries, their annual salaries, but they do not receive additional money for completing a claim or anything like that. And that does include the VSOs in the homes. So they're state employees. There are approximately, as you're right, there are about 119 VSOs, and since I don't have to do math in public, that's one to every 3,035 veterans in the state of Missouri. There are Missouri Veterans Commission, of that 119 has 48. Let's see. For the wait time is generally about it can be as 2 weeks to 2 months, depending on the wait or how many veterans are in the queue within each of the locations. So every location has a different time frame, but 2 months would be probably at the far end of things. But that's just to get into an appointment. That doesn't include doing the paperwork and waiting on the VA to complete the claim itself. Let's see. Components to be a VA or VSO have to take VA law class, which is a week-long class, and then you're doing a left seat, right seat ride with an experienced VSO, and you're not fully, at least for us, you're not fully released until you have 6 months in the seat. Disclosure: we do have whenever you sign with a VSO, you have to sign. You're giving them the power to fill out the claim on your behalf. And we don't really have any disclosures in there that I'm aware of, but we try to make them aware of that we don't control the time frame of how long the VA takes to process the claim. We can only worry about or affect the time that it takes for us to fill out the claim for you. Let's see. I think I tried to write down all your questions. I hope I got them all, sir.
You did. And if there are, we can follow up again.
Very good, sir.
Any other questions from the committee? Thank you very much for your testimony. Any others for informational purposes? Seeing none. Thank you, Senator, for your presentation. I'm going to bypass closing arguments at this time because we want to give a few minutes for 316 to come up. Thank you very much, and we can talk later about some of the other things as well. Thank you very much. Okay, that concludes the hearing for Senate Bill 300. Now we're going to go to Senator Black with Senate Bill 316. And after he presents, if there are in favor, please stack them up on each side so we can move along a little quicker, and we'll do the same for opposition. Also, if you are testifying in favor of, and some of these points have already been made, please limit your testimony. We'll say a minute. We'll see what the time clock does to us. And when we get to opposition, especially if those have been made for the other bill, let's keep that in mind, and we'll limit that as well. So I'll probably raise a hand here. I do have Rusty's gavel, so may do his technique in a little while. But Senator, go ahead and start presenting when you're ready.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Rusty Black, and I represent the 12th Senate District. I'm going to throw a couple comments in here before because I'm probably not going to have closing time. You know, it is kind of intimidating, one of the few places in this whole building that I would be intimidated presenting anything, since I'm virtually the only non-veteran in the whole group, right? So whenever we're discussing these, there's two of us in the room. I look to make sure I remembered that correctly. Everybody else sometimes, and I recognize, question a lay person or whatever lower level person they would consider somebody like me being involved in veterans affairs. You know, at least last year, some people were happy that I chaired once in a while. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and jump to my closing comments, letting everybody remember Rusty Black says I am not a veteran and I'm not trying to portray myself as one. Two senators that have been in here understand the reason I care, right? We were lucky enough that he was home again this weekend, because in September of 19, after 4 deployments to Afghanistan, 3 to Iraq, and 1 to, he still never told us where he went. He's still alive and here. That being said, we discussed this Sunday. He still talks to veterans all over the world and helps them as they go through their problems of deciding whether they want to be here or not. These other organizations are needed, folks. You as committee members think really hard about outlawing them, because his friends across the United States can't get to VSO to be able to get it done. The other opportunity needs to be there, or we will be making a decision in our state that somebody like my son may decide it's just better not to be here and take his life. Senate Bill 316 would install consumer protections in states for veterans. Currently, veterans can try to get their VA disability just like individuals file their taxes. They can do it themselves, use free service, or they can hire experts to help them. The VA system is hard, adversarial, and broken. We found that out. Even the best state systems are overworked. That's already been explained. Despite free options from the veteran service organizations and state-run, taxpayer-funded veteran service support, thousands of veterans still choose to seek private, paid, expert help for their disability rating. However, like all industries, there are good and bad actors that I don't believe the answer is to shut down the entire sector because of these bad actors. Instead, let's provide legislation to put guidelines and restrictions in order prohibiting initial upfront fees, mandates all fees are contingent on a successful outcome, implements a free cap supported by the Industry Trade Association. I'm trying to talk faster than normal, Mr. Senator. Prohibits direct solicitation of the veteran, promising or guaranteeing an increase using overseas call centers, having access to the veterans' Personal private information, remember we're saying no. Mandates you must disclose to the veteran that there is free options available and get their consent in writing. Mandates HIPAA compliant servers. Prohibits taking on a veteran in the first 365 days of discharge. Adds civil and criminal penalties to anyone who violates these rules. I'm sorry that I took up your time, but I will not be asking for closing comments. Senator Moon.
Is the senator from Green sitting behind you? You'll get that later, probably. You just got it? Okay. Okay. Thank you for your presentation. Any comments from the questions from the committee? Go ahead, Senator Roberts.
Just briefly, Senator, I just wanted to thank you for sharing your story with me, and I can tell, from your heart how important this issue is, and it's always a pleasure to work with you. So thank you for your testimony and being so candid with me.
Witnesses in support, please come up by twos if you have more than one. Stagger on each side. And go ahead and when you're ready.
Thank you, Senator. Again, John Blumstrom with Veterans Guardian. I don't know how I'm going to follow that act. That's a hard one. What I will say is, to the senator's point, ensuring that veterans are protected in the state of Missouri is critical. And what 316 does is preserve a veteran's right to choose while making sure that industry standard becomes the standard and is by law is focused on consumer protections. And at the end of the day, making sure that a veteran has the right to choose and how they get their claim done is a right that they've earned. And I think Senator Black hit the nail on the head. Can you come to every single one of these things? That's all I have. Thank you, Senator.
Well, seeing that I'm the only one on the committee here, I have no questions because you fully laid it out. I may have some more. I can contact you later for that. If you will, complete another witness form if you have not already. And if there are others taking your place in favor, please go ahead and come up. Ma'am, when you're ready, please state your name and begin.
My name is Jacelyn Antonson, and I have a unique position that I have used one of the veteran services companies before, and I also work for one now. Without the help, I wouldn't have been able to get what I deserved from the VA as well. When my husband died, I was in a rough spot, and I reached out to VSOs and whatnot, and they were too busy to help, overloaded and not able to assist me in any way. So I went to one of the companies, and I got my benefits. And working for them now, I see the transparency that is used and the benefits that that other veterans deserve getting their benefits.
Mm-hmm. Very good. I think you did that well. Thank you. And I want to say before, so I don't forget, Senator Black mentioned that we're not veterans, but one thing we have in common is that we care for veterans, and we honor you for your service, so we're grateful to you. No questions at this point? Any others in favor who would like to come up? I think we saw the chair moving down here, so come on back up. And again, since you testified in opposition to the other, if there's similarities, please limit to a shorter time if you can, but
Yes, sir.
when you're ready, go ahead.
Yeah, bottom line is United Veteran Benefits Agency agrees that there should be regulation, there should be restrictions, and we support the legislation to do that, but we want to take care of our veterans just like everybody else. So thank you for this bill.
And I think you reiterated that clearly. I have no question at this time. Any other in favor? Any in opposition? And if there's more than one, stagger on both sides, if you will. Let's line those up. When you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, Gary Grigsby, and I'm the Vice Chair of MAVO. I have put into the notes, I have a copy of my comments so that I had prepared, so I will not, I will forego that. VFW comments are contained as part of that packet. my letter, my email rather, to Senator Black, because I felt that I owed the senator to tell him why we are in opposition. And primarily it's because Troy Williams, who is our chair and is a VSO, said that our MAVO position would be in opposition. And then I had my comments there, and I appreciated the information on 38 CFR 14636. And I will find out other sources for you. And generally, Troy says that we will not support the outside people who are not VA, VSO trained. So with that, I've already said it, and I will close with that if you have any questions.
Very good. I have no questions at this time, but I know where to get hold of you.
Okay, yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Others in opposition?
Yes, Charles
And
Gooden.
and again, if you have something that crosses over, if you'll limit that, since we already have that testimony, and just
Okay.
new
the only-
information if you can.
Yeah, here. The only thing I want to say, and on a personal point, nobody's restricted from going to a lawyer and letting that lawyer in sign to help them. You know, if you can't get what you want from a service officer. But what Gary said and what Maville thinks, that we all ought to work with the VA restriction of being certified.
Thank you very much. Any others in opposition? Seeing none. Any for information only? Seeing none, I just want to say before we close out this hearing that appreciate you guys, especially with this last bill. We went in rapid fire, but I think we got the bases covered. And I plan to have some discussions with not just the committee, but some others as well. Those who testified, especially if we're not clear on some of the information, would like to reach out to you. Thank you all for being present today. We're grateful for all of you. And that concludes the hearing for the Veterans and Military Affairs.